me. And
for the Historical Society. This year's our 50th anniversary, so we are highlighting businesses that have been around for over 100 years. Obviously, Chelsea State Bank, through its many more organizations, have been around for over 100 years. Now, Cole is here, Kupu is here, Ali is here, so both of those guys presented. I now present to you John Mann, who has been actively involved with Chelsea State Bank for decades.
That 3.5. Thank you, Dave. All right, so I grew up in Chelsea with my 3 sisters and mom and dad. Dad was president of the bank, and my mom was a homemaker, at least until us children grew up enough to where she could go back to her teaching profession, and she was a guidance counselor at Beach School for, until she retired. Where was I? I'm a proud graduate of Chelsea High School, and after Chelsea, I attended Albion College, and I'm a proud graduate of Albion, where I graduated in 3.5 years with high honors, with a focus on the sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. So what am I doing in banking? That's coming. My first real job after Albion was as an emissions engineer at Chrysler Proving Grounds. That's in my bio right here. And I worked there for 3 years. And then in 1981, I asked Aunt Trito to marry me. Get out. And she said, "I'll marry you if we leave Chelsea." I said, "If you marry me, we'll take the last train to Clarksville. I'll go anywhere." We ended up in Durham, North Carolina, where I entered Duke University to study business, and I got my MBA in 1983 from Duke. Going to job fairs and interviewing, I realized pretty quickly that banking would be the profession for me. And in 1983, I began my banking career with National Bank of Detroit, NBD, right downtown at 611 Woodward. 1984, Tigers won the pennant. Life was good. 1985, NBD transferred me to Ann Arbor. 1985, Ann and I bought a house in Chelsea and began our own family. So it all really was great, came around full circle. Okay, enough about me, and let's get on to our history. So, yeah, where it all began. This building is you might recognize it. It's on the corner of Main and West Middle, and it's the Kemp. It is the headquarters. It is the banking headquarters of the Kemp and Brother Bank, and Kemp and Brother Bank is one of our decedents. But you can see that building is in pretty rough shape. Kempf and Brother began their business, I'm told, in 1876, but we have there's no written record of that. It was really a private bank. Our Kempf was Reuben Kempf, and his brother was Charles Kempf. They owned and operated the bank. Right across the street, next slide, Nick. Right across the street is the other bank in town. This is the Chelsea Drugstore Bank. That's how I'm told. That's how the public talked about it locally, the drugstore bank, because it was owned and operated by George Glazier, and he was a druggist and a banker. And again, right across the corner. So Main and West Middle was the financial center of Chelsea. All right, next. So that January 17th, 1898 should have been December 18th, 1897, because that is what we consider our birthday of Chelsea State Bank. That's the day that 22 investors from Chelsea pooled their money together and signed an agreement with Reuben and Charles Kempf to buy the bank. And incorporation papers were filed to make it official. And we got a charter from the state of Michigan, which the Chelsea State Bank still operates under today. And so December 18th, 1897 is our official birth date. We opened for business on January 17th, 1898. Let's see, what can I add? Oh, the investors, we bought into the bank with the Kempf brothers for $27,000. That was 65% of the bank. The Kempfs retained 35%, and also $10,000 was paid for the building and fixtures. So we started with initial capitalization of $40,000, $27,000 and $10,000. Don't ask me how the math makes sense, because it doesn't. But who cares? It was 127 years ago. All right. So this slide is April 5th, 1898, and which happened to be the date of our first annual meeting. And so at the annual meeting, you have a shareholder vote. And so these came right from the minutes, the bank minutes. By the way, I have the original Kempf Commercial and Savings Bank minute book beginning in 1897. And that book goes through about maybe 20 years. I don't know exactly. But please take a look at it. You're welcome to. The cursive is amazing. But the reason why I have this slide is because it has a record of the owners of the bank and the original owners. And it's hard to read those names. And so I'm not going to read them all, but I'll read the five. There were 5 directors of the bank initially, and they were Reuben Kempf, Harmon Holmes, Charles Kempf, Roland Armstrong, and Christopher Klein. So they're the first 5 investors listed on that list. Also listed are John Palmer and George Begole, who were the only 2 employees of the bank. And just another item of note, a name of note, there's Edward Vogel on the list, amongst about 20 others. Oh, the original minutes of early board minutes, if you look at them, include the approval of a $15 expenditure for 2.5 tons of coal and a recommendation from the audit committee after careful consideration to purchase a typewriter in order that the correspondence of the bank may be printed in keeping with modern progress. Okay, this next slide there's several things interesting things I'd like to talk about here. First, you'll notice in the foreground on the left, and you all know where we are, where this photo was taken, looking north on Main Street from the corner of Park and South. But the building on the left is the Glazier Building. It was built by Frank Glazier in memory and honor of his father George. It was built in 1901. This photo was taken it's not dated, but I know when it was taken from the minutes of the Kempf meeting, because Kempf approved construction, remodeling contract to remodel their office building in March of 1906. And you'll notice in front of the Kempf Bank down there, you'll notice there's dumpsters, there's something, there's whatever those are, but the building is under construction and is being remodeled. And it's also wintertime. You notice snow on the awnings and on the street. So that had to be the winter of 1906-07. And Kempf, there's 2 banks in town. The Glazier Bank, by the way, when Frank moved the office, he changed the name to Chelsea Savings Bank. But so 2 banks in town, Kempf and Chelsea Savings, and you can see that Kempf needs to keep up with the Joneses and improve their facility. Frank Glazier, again, 1906. Frank Glazier is president of the Chelsea Savings Bank and running it. He is also running his stove factory across the street here, shipping the brightest and best stoves all across the country and the world. And he's state treasurer. He's a busy boy, busy man. Next slide, please. Here's the completed construction. So this picture has to be 1907. And there's the Kempf Bank in 1907. It hasn't changed. Look at it today and it hasn't changed, right? Am I right? I don't think so. Not much. But
So was there a couple more?
right, they got rid of that door.
There was no door on it. With the land, yes.
Well, I don't. Oh, you mean originally when it was? Yeah. Looked like the door was right on the corner. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's a complete remodel. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know. Good question. Maybe it's Harmon Holmes. He was president. Okay, next slide. This picture would have been taken at the same time, and left to right is George Bagol. He was like an assistant cashier of the bank. Behind him, on the left is Charles Kemp. He was secretary of the corporation and of the board. And next to him is Harmon Holmes. He was president of the bank and a director, as I said. And the other gentleman is J.L. Fletcher. J.L. Fletcher and George Bagol were the employees of the bank. George Bagol, by the way, was secretary and recorded all these of the bank and recorded all these minutes in this flowery cursive. You'll see where they used it later, but not in the board minutes. The board minutes were not typed. Not by the Kemp Bank. All right, one more. Another photo of the interior. Check out this floor, and then when you get a chance, go to Chelsea Outfitters. They have it's a relatively new business in this location, and when they remodeled and made the building suit their needs, they uncovered this floor, and it's there. It looks just like this. It's very cool. But the other thing that I want to say about in this picture is it's late 1907. Ill winds were blowing up the street at the Chelsea Savings Bank and in Lansing. The Chelsea Savings Bank was closed by the state of Michigan in December 1907, as it was judged to be insolvent. So that left Chelsea with only one bank, Kemp Commercial and Savings, but not for long. Go ahead. In April 1908, hey, you know what? I should have said earlier, if somebody has a question, I got like 40 slides to get through in 90 minutes, so I want to keep moving. But if somebody has a question, raise their hand or just blurt it out and I'll deal with it. So, but I'm sorry I didn't say that initially. So in April 1908, the Farmers and Merchants Bank of Chelsea was born. And this is the interior of the first office. Nikki, forward it to the next slide. There's the exterior. F&M Bank, you see the sign, one storefront down from the former Glacier Drugstore Bank and from present-day Zuzu's. So that was the original office. Now you can go back, Nick. But the gentleman on the left is Paul G. Shibley Sr. He was a Lima Township farmer. and well connected because he organized the Farmers and Merchants Bank in 4 months. You know, he also, I should say, and I just know I knew this, but I never got to ask his son about it, or, but he had worked for the Chelsea Savings Bank for a short period. So who knows? He may have saw the handwriting on the wall and been at work. But anyway, the bank failed in December. The Farmers and Merchants Bank opened in April. So in 4 months, he obtained 56 investors that put up between $200 and $1,000 each, and accumulated, and that amounted to 250 shares times $100 a share. So they started with capital of $25,000. That math works. And he did it also, and one way that he did it, because I've heard these stories, word of mouth, but by horse and buggy, he visited fellow farmers in Lima and Sylvan Township. And the next slide includes, well, go 2 slides. This slide includes, is the original shareholder list. And go to the next slide, Nikki. Because this one, the bank, we modernized it and typed it up. And yeah. Linda Pearsall did this for me, like probably about before our 100-year anniversary celebration. Anyway, here's the shareholder list, and it reads like a roadmap of the Chelsea School District. Seriously, I'll read some of the names. Christopher Combaugh, Howard Everett, Henry Merkel, A.J. Boyce, Harmon Pierce, Michael Merkel, Peter Merkel. Oh, I have too many Merkels. The original Henry was Henry Hewell. Joseph Wink, Martin Wink, George Leffler, Arnold Kuhl, William Eisman, John Grau, Michael Schiller, A.E. Burkhart, Archie Wilkinson, Emmanuel Schenk, Joseph Liebeck, Matt Kuster, James Taylor, Taylor Lane, Jacob Heist, Fred Trinkley, Mrs. George Palmer, George Hinder, Dick Clark, Peter Gorman, and Frederick Heidloff. And that's not everybody, but that's just, it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. Okay, move on, John. Okay, we're gonna jump ahead. Here's correspondence from. I include this correspondence because one, it's a pretty cool letterhead. 2, it shows that they did use that typewriter. 3, the officer list has expanded. Capital has increased by 100,000. It's now 140,000. And they are renewing their 30-year charter, which was required under state regulation. And in fact, we had to do that through 1987, which was before my time. But I see the file where it was done every 30 years until the state updated their banking laws and made all charters perpetual. But here, another thing that's I think is cool about this letter is that so they needed to have a shareholder meeting, and they bribed them with dinner and entertainment. There will be some good music and singing. Meanwhile, over at the Farmers and Merchants Bank, remember the small office they had that I showed you a minute ago? In 1927, they bought the Glazier Building. They bought it from Potter Cement Company. Potter Cement Company had acquired the building probably from the state of Michigan, but they had put their offices in. They were a Jackson company, but they were mining the marl pits at 4 Mile Lake and selling cement. So anyway, $21,500 was the bill of sale from Farmers and Merchants Bank to Potter Cement on July 9th. Well, that's when we had the open house. So sometime earlier than that, in 1927. But check out the hours of this open house. Saturday opened from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Those were actually the real banking hours in those days. And Saturday in Chelsea was a business day and probably a party day, where folks came into town and hung out. And so it was a good day for business. What else do I want to say? It's good. Oh, we needed to make renovations before we opened, and here's the bank, inside of the bank building in 1927. It was the roaring 20s, and both Chelsea banks were healthy and were flourishing. By January 1929, the Kempf Bank had accumulated $850,000 total assets and capital of $140,000. And the Farmers and Merchants Bank at the same time had grown to $1.1 million and capital of $130,000. So life was good. All right, next. But all of you know what happened. All of you you all know this part of U.S. history. You all know about, the Great Depression was coming. From April 1930 to July 1932, the U.S. stock market lost 89% of its value. In the U.S., 6,800 banks were closed. And that's almost half. That's out of the 15,000 that were there to begin with, almost half. So both Chelsea banks were healthy. This is a resolution that was passed by both boards, the Kempf Bank and the Farmers and Merchants Bank. This resolution was passed by both boards on February 13th, 1934. And it says, right in the resolution that they agreed to merge for the purpose of greater efficiency and economy of management, as well as for the general welfare of the corporation and the community wherein they transact business. So they needed this resolution needed shareholder approval on February 28th, February 24th, 1934. They had their shareholder meetings. The Farmers and Merchants Bank tally was 472 ayes and 1 nay. The Kempf Bank, and that's out of 500 shareholders. So almost everybody voted. The Kempf Bank, 408 ayes, 174 nays out of 600. So a little contentious, but it passed. And you'll see if you look closely at and it's probably hard for you guys to read, but if you look closely at these articles, Article 3 has that the Kempf Commercial and Savings Bank agrees to take such corporate action as may be necessary to increase its capital stock from the sum of $60,000 to the sum of $110,000. So that's probably why there was some. Yeah, go ahead.
During that effort, 1929.
Yeah, I'm sure there were many runs on banks during the Depression, and there were bank holidays where they locked, and by government order. FDR ordered one right after taking the oath of office in 1933, I believe, and that was a national one. But before that, the state of Michigan had at least one holiday where like the state closed their offices, and then that had happened in other states. If any happened in Chelsea, I'm sure there were some, just like during COVID-19, there were people concerned and came in and withdrew cash, and no matter what you say, it's going to be okay. People want their cash, and so there probably were bank runs, but they obviously survived them. They obviously survived them, and they what do I want to? Yeah, they obviously they obviously survived them. Oh, there also, look, to finish my thought that I was getting at, the Kemp shareholders needed to come up, or the bank somehow needed to come up with an additional $60,000 in capital to reach the sum of $110,000. I just read you that in 1929 they had capital of $140,000. So they must have had some loan charge-offs. Right, Ken? You would, yeah. So anyway, so they there were problems, but again, according to what's said, both Chelsea banks were healthy, and but this was certainly worked to our advantage to have them come together. Now Chelsea only had one bank, but it was strong and ready to move forward. Oh, the offices were, and this is right in this agreement, that the main office, the only office, would be in the Glazier Building, the Farmers and Merchants headquarters, and that the Article 5 states that specifies how the board of directors would be elected, and that the board would then appoint the officers. And I'll tell you that Paul G. Scheibele Sr. was appointed the president of the Chelsea State Bank. The name changed to the Chelsea State Bank, 1934. All right, here's one of our early FDIC certificates. We recovered immediately upon our opening FDIC. This one happens to be dated in 1935. I think the original one is in my history display at the bank. But note that the FDIC limit is $5,000 per depositor. The FDIC insurance was new in 1933, and it was part of the actions that Roosevelt took during that bank holiday that are largely credited with saving the system. Okay, I'm jumping ahead 25 years. What do we got? Oh, I better hurry. These pictures were taken in the summer of 1959. That was Chelsea's 125th anniversary. I have a book here that talks all about it, and I encourage you guys to look at this and or go to the library. I'm sure they have several copies, and read it. There's a lot of history in here. All the businesses took out ads and kind of and talked about their own history, and it's just a hoot to read it. But the gentleman in the black and white photo to the left is wait, here's my notes. I want to pick it up. His name is Paul, aka Jerry Niehaus. Yeah, you say, oh, that guy. So you go to football games at Chelsea High, and it's Jerry Niehaus Field, and people want to know. Everybody wants to know, who's Jerry Niehaus? That's why I included this picture. Jerry worked at the bank. He worked at Chelsea State Bank, and he was a very active Kiwanian, and he at Halloween, I remember this. At Halloween in the 60s, the Kiwanis Club would have contests and judge costumes, and they'd have prizes. Jerry ran them, and he loved kids, and a Kiwanis Club, and I'm not sure if it was upon his passing or not, but I think maybe it was. The Kiwanis Club donated a scoreboard to Chelsea School District and got naming rights for Jerry Niehaus Field.
Jerry, he thought.
Jerry is pretending Jerry is like pretending he's drinking, I believe, and he's got a mule, and I don't know. Beyond that, who knows? Maybe he's not pretending. Maybe he's not pretending. And the other picture, the other photo? Who's that? Who's that family? All right. Yours truly is the little junior on the left. My dad in the middle. But hold on. My sister Jane, the tall one in the back, and sister Lori in front. My mom is probably taking the picture. She is very pregnant. By the way, she had made my sister's dresses and my vest. She was a seamstress. But she was very pregnant. And Susie Mann, my sister Susie, was born on July 11th. Thank you, Kathleen. 1959. And she was the centennial baby. And Mom and her got prizes for that. She was the first baby born during the celebration. Okay, we better move on. This is the Chelsea State Bank head office, main office in 1960, and there's no room for a drive-through, which are becoming popular. All right, next slide. These photos were from our 100-year anniversary calendar, and it's the early churches. But I just want to talk about the one in the upper right corner. That is a Baptist church, and it was one of the first churches in Chelsea, and it was located on the corner of Main and Orchard. Next slide. This is O.B. McLaughlin's garage in the late 20s. It was located on the corner of Main and Orchard, same place. Next slide. Okay, I wish these pictures were a little bigger of the bank, but in 1968, Chelsea State Bank opened a new office out of necessity to have more space for our growing staff and to provide better service to our customers, including 4 drive-up windows. But I'm sorry I don't have better pictures, because the interior of the bank was very modern, very spacious, and I'm sure it was a great place to do business. I was a kid, so I didn't really have much business. 1968. So in the center photo, that's Paul Shibley Sr. and Paul Shibley Jr., PG. And Paul Shibley Sr. was chairman of the board at that time. PG Jr. was a vice president. And I got to talk about the people on the left because they're in the photo. My dad and my mom on the left. My Aunt Marilyn next to Mom. My Uncle Doug also sitting to the right. That's my mom's brother. And their father, my grandfather, Frank Campbell, and he was president of the State Savings Bank of Carroll. So
John, you're failing to mention that the house that was there in order to make the bank, your lovely wife Stanley came to town. And what happened?
You guys rented the house. I even have documentation. There were more than that. There was the Stubbs house had been moved before, right? Yeah, the Stubbs house was moved to McKinley, but that was probably a couple years early. 1 year prior? Well, maybe, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, they threw us out. They tore the house down. We had to find a new home.
It was more than just your house, though. There were other. Wasn't there like the House of Orient there? Oh, that was your house. There wasn't another house? Well, there was. Oh, I believe maybe it was the garage or. Yeah, but the guy that we hired a hairdresser. His name was Paul. I say we. Paul Higgins. Yeah, Paul Higgins did the demolition. Yeah, Paul. Yeah, because he took part of one of the buildings and moved it out south M52 in the Sharon Hills, where he built a new house. He put a foundation and put part of a building from here on that foundation. Paul Higgins. Yep. And Kathleen, I even have a rental agreement in the files that's with Howard Trito. Yeah. Yes, Daft.
People that owned that house that they kicked us out of was the guy who owned, the man who owned that popular bar in Ann Arbor where they ate and drank and threw
Bimbos? Bimbos were
yes,
peanuts on the ground?
he owned Bimbos. And then you guys, the bank bought it from him, and then they said, Mr. Triddle, we are going to abolish your house. We lived there 2 years, and we couldn't find anything else in town.
But look what it did for you. You found a wonderful house on South Street. All was good.
We went down a level, and yeah.
All right, no problem. I think we can still do this. All right, I am, here's something that I am very proud of. I'm going to read the letter. It's to the Washtenaw County Board of Supervisors, dated October 14th, 1968. Gentlemen, the Chelsea State Bank and its predecessors have occupied since 1901 a building which the Chelsea community considers one of its landmarks. With the construction of a new bank, the building is presently unoccupied. Chelsea State Bank and the people in the community desire to have the building used for some public purpose. I have been authorized to offer the building to Washtenaw County under the following conditions. 1, the building is to be used primarily for district court activities. And 2, if the building is not used primarily for court purposes for a period in excess of 1 year within the next 25 years, the property will revert to the village of Chelsea.
Years.
Go ahead, next. And then this letter from the Chelsea Village Planning Commission to the Chelsea State Bank. The Village Planning Commission would like to thank the Chelsea State Bank for their generosity in offering the old bank building to the county to be used as a court for the western part of Washtenaw County. Few people realize the importance and convenience this court will be to the citizens of this area. The offering of the bank building undoubtedly was a major factor in the decision to locate one of the new courts in Chelsea. The Planning Commission commends the Chelsea State Bank for their contribution to the further development of Chelsea. Dr. J.V. Fisher, chairman of the Chelsea Planning Commission. I'm sorry to blow our horn, but as you'll see later in the presentation, it's just one more example of how we operate our business. And we believe in supporting the community that supports us. And we put our money where our mouth is. So, yes.
So since it's been 25 years, that's now a county building and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and actually by the terms were only that they operate 1 year out of the next 25. But yes, they've more than fulfilled their obligation. But and there was, and the talk has been they're closing. Ann and I visited on Friday, and the guard in the guard that gave us a tour said, no, they're staying open. They're not closing. So, yeah. All right, what's the next slide? Go forward one more, quick. Paul G. Shively Sr. And there's a picture of our new bank. This article, this was a newspaper article in the Jackson Citizen Patriot. You can see as of April 7th, 1968. Okay, Nikki, go back to the story. Yeah, thank you. Paul Shively was a character with a capital C. In this article, I'll just tell which really focuses on him, and but he's quoted here in that second stanza. There was a time, mused the bank officer, that this fine office equipment was not a part of the facilities in the bank. There was a time when we did our own adding. I guess that was when I learned how to add. And then it closes with, when it was suggested that I, the writer, might be well to take a picture of Shively leaving the new bank, he grinned and shook his head. Maybe we better not do that. You see, someone might get the idea that I'm retiring, and I'm not. Mr. Shively, bless his heart, died 1 year later, the summer of 1969. All right. Go on to the next. Fast forward 12 years. That's, you know where that is. Yeah. There was a burger stand there, and but we, this was our first branch office, so now this was our second office, and we built it. Traffic was, and I remember this, traffic would back up on Thursdays and Fridays downtown because people wanted to cash checks. Heck, Jackie and Becky, you guys should be telling this story because you were working at that time at the bank, not me. Although I was cashing my checks, I was working at Chrysler Proving Grounds, cashing checks. Yeah, till 1979. No, 1980. So this is our first office, and it was built, and the land was purchased with knowing that it would be a site for future expansion.
Good question. What was there before you built the bank town?
Well, there was in the front, kind of along Old 12, like across from the Wolverine, there was a dairy bar where you could get burgers. And then, and Charlie said there was an A&W. I don't remember the A&W.
It was actually on World War 12, and they put jobs.
And then they,
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then, but then in California.
All right, let's go to the next slide. This one I just put in as a it's a report of condition, and which we used to have to publish quarterly in the newspaper and get it certified and all that. We don't need to do that anymore. We file a call report that is electronically available on the internet to anybody who wants to look at them. But anyway, this shows, it's kind of a placeholder, shows a benchmark of where we were in 1980. And quite honestly, I'm surprised. Total assets were $45 million. I would have thought they'd be a little more. And capital is where right about $5 million. So that's good. About 11% of assets. But what else? We only have 25,000 in loans. 25 million in loans. So, I'm just, and our deposits are, again, total assets of 45 million. I would have guessed that we'd be a little bigger than that by then. But growth is coming, that's for sure. All right, next photo. How about this cast of characters? This is a 1990 board photo. I joined the bank in 1988, and I was elected to the board in 1990, newly elected to the board in 1990, along with Scott Tanner. My dad was actually coming off the board, and he was off the board from the time Scott and I came on. But the left to right, across the gentleman standing across the back, Dave Streeter, Jack Merkel, Bob Daniels, Larry Deatley, George Palmer, and in the front row, Dudley Holmes Jr., Scott Tanner, Paul Shively Jr., my dad, and myself. I became president in 1994. In 1995, we had our first female director, Kathleen Griffiths. Also in 1995, we had our very first female vice president, Gail Bauer. Baby steps, but the tide was turning. All right. So in 1993, we built our brand new main office on the site of our former branch, and we actually built around that branch. So that was our brand new office in 1993. Go ahead. In 1995, we introduced a new checking product, laser image checking, where we took images of checks and made them available so our customers could view their checks on the front and back online. And we were the first bank in the area to do that. And I don't have the newspaper article, but in our historical display, there's an article in 1959 with a picture of Phyllis Wooster operating the Washtenaw County's first electronic posting machine. So the point of this is to say that sometimes being small and being nimble lets you be ahead of the large guys. So, next slide. All right, we had a big party at our 100-year anniversary in 1997. 1997 calendar. It was a lot of fun. We called it Celebration of a Century. Go ahead, next slide. 1980, we opened our first office outside of Chelsea. This is our Dexter grand opening. Ribbon cutting. 1980. Wait a second. Holy cow. 1980. 2000. This photo was October 23rd, 2000, when we had the ribbon cutting. Thank you for that correction. The best. All right. Here's a letter from the parochial school committee of St. Mary's Parish, dated August 9th, 1906, thanking us for our $100 donation. I know it doesn't sound like much, but boy, they sure. I mean, it was even in the minutes that we needed to have the board approve a $100 donation. It was in the minutes on August 7th, and then here on August 9th, we get a thank you letter. So it didn't take too long to turn that around, but it just goes to show. Well, let's go to the next slide. This is 1997 donation to the Chelsea Community Foundation of $250,000, and but it just goes to show you that giving back was in our DNA, and it is part of our. It's one of our pillars today that we reinvest in our community, that we participate in. This is really in our employee, one of our, and comes out in our strategic plan for employees to follow, that we participate, are actively involved in the community, and we donate to the community. So these are just a couple of examples. Let's go to the next page. Oh, do you have the presidents? There we go. Good, perfect. All right. So here are our bank presidents. The guy Reuben Kemp, Harmon Holmes, and Daniel McLaren from were the first three presidents of the Kemp Commercial and Savings Bank. John Waltrus, followed by John Waltrus at the Farmers and Merchants Bank, followed by Paul Shibley, Paul Mann, Paul Shibley Jr. and myself, my term ended in, it's penciled in there, 2017. And then David Shibley served us ably as president for 2 years till 2019. And then finally, after 122 years of men running the bank, and after 98 straight years of Shibleys and Manns running the bank, 98 years, here comes Joanne Rao. God darn it, Joanne, I wish you were here. No, we hire, but I am so fired up and so happy that we were able to attract her and bring her to our bank. I had known her for about 10 years before this hire, and she had lived in Chelsea probably about that long. And anyway, she is a breath of fresh air. She is a leader. She is a team builder. She is not afraid to take on challenges. Look at the core conversion that we just accomplished. She is cool and calm under pressure. Look at how we handled the COVID-19 pandemic, staying open the whole time, never missed a beat, clearing checks, serving our customers. The bank office was closed, but everybody worked, and we served our figured out a way to serve our customers through the drive-through and provide PPP loans to many, many customers and non-customers. That was just amazing what we were able to accomplish with the whole team. Joanne had everybody. She's much more technically proficient than I am, and I speak for Dave too. We're glad she was there to help us through that and to do what she did. She's great, and I'm really happy to have her. All right, let's go to the next slide. We spent the past hour or so talking about the history of the bank. But what's most important is what's going on now and what will happen in the future. And I can say the future is bright for Chelsea State Bank. Formed in 1897, we've grown to over $400 million in assets and also $45 million in capital. Well, $40 million in capital, 40. And we were declared one of the top 50 best performing banks in the Midwest under $10 billion in assets. That was in 1990. That was in 2023. And also in 2023, we were named a top workplace. And we could not have had all the success we've had and growth. We could not have had it without loyal and dedicated long-term employees. And I see several that are here. You guys want to stand up, please? And we most definitely couldn't have done it without loyal and long-term and new customers. So thank you to all our customers.
John, can you tell us about your Jackson?
Thanks for asking. I absolutely can. Yeah, we have recently announced it. I mean, we've been looking at it for 2 years, and but finally it came to pass, and we got all the paperwork behind us, and we are moving into location. I don't know the exact address, but it's Wisner. It's a former office of Ann Arbor State Bank. They were acquired by Level One Bank, and Level One Bank was acquired by First Merchants Bank, and they closed that office a few years ago. But anyway, we're excited to open there, and I believe, I think we need to make final improvements and get an ATM machine. That's the holdup right now, getting delivery of a suitable ATM. But we're excited to enter Jackson. We have, just like when we went to Dexter, we already had a ton of customers in Dexter. We already have a ton of customers, well, maybe not a ton, but we have a lot of customers already in Jackson. Our senior commercial lender lives in Jackson and had worked for another bank in Jackson for years, and has made already, he's been with us for a couple years, and we've made inroads there, and so anyway, we're excited. Thanks for asking. All right. Well, any other questions?